Join me and learn how to make this super simple snowflake. You can use it to make bunting, hang on your Christmas tree, hang along the windows, or even applique onto your favourite sweater or mittens. So I want to show you how to make these beautiful little snowflakes. They're super easy, and you can see I've used them for lots of different things. I'm going to applique them onto a pair of mittens here. So that's going to be lovely. What a great gift that is. You can attach them to a chain like I have here, just to make some lovely bunting. And all I've done is just to sew with a little bit of thread onto a chain. So just chain however many chains you want to make a long string, or attach them to some ribbon and just stitch them on. Or you can just hang them on your tree. Or you can actually, a good idea as well is just to sew some onto a sweater that you're a bit bored with to make a brand new Christmas jumper. So let's get started and we'll have a look at how to make these lovely snowflakes. So I have a 10mm hook, and we start the snowflake by just making a slip knot. Now it can be any old way you make a slip knot. I just work it, tie a knot around my finger, pull the tail of the yarn through, and then just pull to tighten. So the first thing we do for the snowflake is that we chain 4. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to join this into a circle so that we can work into the centre of the snowflake here. So I'm just going to slip stitch. Now if you remember the slip stitch, you just put your hook through the stitch at the end, and then with your yarn just bring the yarn, put it around the hook and drag it through all of both those stitches, and that creates a little circle. So the first thing we do, we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. 3. Then all of the stitches we're going to work now are going to go into the centre of this little circle. So I'm going to work a US double crochet, UK treble. So we bring the yarn around the hook into the centre of the circle and pull up a loop. So you have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn around, pull through 2, yarn around, pull through 2. In this scenario, the chain 3 acts as a UK treble or a US double crochet. Then we're going to do a chain. So now we're going to work 2 double crochets into the circle. Yarn around, into the circle and pull up a loop. Yarn around, pull through 2, yarn around, pull through 2. And we're going to do another one. Yarn around into the circle and pull up a loop. Yarn around, pull through 2, yarn around, pull through 2, and then a chain. And what we're creating here are like the spokes of a wheel. And we're doing that by putting in a chain space either way around where we're going. So we've got the 2 stitches and a chain space, 2 stitches and a chain space. And that is what we end up with these little sort of spokes. So we need another 4 of these. So yarn over into the stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and the same, another US double crochet, UK treble, so it's another 2 of those, and a chain, and then we do that again. And then a chain. So can you see the way it's coming now? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we just need another 2. Yarn over into the stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now when you get to the last one, especially if you're using really chunky yarn like this, sometimes it gets a bit crowded and congested in the middle of the circle, so just pull the stitches around and make space. This is our last one. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull up a loop, and then 1 chain. And now all we need to do is a slip stitch to join back into this top chain. This is the 3 chains we made right at the beginning. So I'm going to put my hook through there, grab the yarn and pull it back through both in that slip stitch. There we go. Now I'll just show you on my finished one here. So now we've created this middle section of the spokes on the wheel, and what we need to add are the lovely little points, and we do those with chains and slip stitches. So the first thing that we do is to use a slip stitch. Now the slip stitch is a curious thing. We sort of think of it as just a flat stitch, but it's a great way to move around your crochet when you're making anything. If you want to get from there to there without any lumpy stitch moves, you just slip stitch. And a slip stitch is when you just put your hook in, pull up the yarn and pull it through, and it creates a flat stitch. You see that just sits on the top. So we use a slip stitch for decoration, but also just to move around. So here we are in the first spoke of the wheel. We want to make our little point. To make our little point, we're going to use chains and slip stitches. So the first thing we do is chain 2 and then slip stitch back into the same hole. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch back into the same hole. And then we chain 2 and slip stitch back into the same hole. Now that seems like a lot, but look what it gives you, a little point. So that's the chain 2, chain 3, chain 2, gives you that little point onto your snowflake. The next thing we're going to do is to slip stitch into the next spoke of the wheel here. So I'll just pull the yarn through there and through my loop, and then we work the same thing again. We do chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to slip stitch back into this hole. So just pull the yarn through the loop. It's hard to see there, but you can see that's just the first little one appearing, and it seems like a lot to get into a little space, but you can just shift the stitches up. 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch back in, pull it through. So we've got the shorter one, a taller point, and then chain 2 and slip stitch back into the same hole. So then we have 2 points, slip stitch into the next hole, and then we chain 2, slip stitch into the same hole, then chain 3 and slip stitch into the same hole, and then chain 2 and slip stitch back into the same hole. Pull it through. We've got 3 points, and then I'm going to slip stitch over into the next hole, next spoke of the wheel, chain 2 and then slip stitch back into there, and then 1, 2, 3, slip stitch back into the same hole, and then chain 2, slip stitch back into the same hole, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next chain space, and again 1, 2, and then chain 3, slip stitch, and then 1, 2, oopsie, splitting the yarn because I'm not being careful there, 1, 2, there's another point, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the last chain space there. So we do 1, 2, and slip stitch, and then chain 3 and slip stitch, and then 1, 2 and a slip stitch. There we go. Now we've done all the points all the way around the wheel there, that little wheel spokes we had. The last thing to do is just to slip stitch this last stitch into the bottom of the snowflake, into the bottom of the chain 3 that we used before. And then so you could just snip that off. And there is a super chunky snowflake. So that's going to look really gorgeous hanging on your tree. So here we have our super chunky snowflake, absolutely gorgeous to hang on the tree. I've left a little bit of yarn here. This is from where I've started off. You've also got your initial tail, so you need to sew those ends in, and you can either, you know, maybe stitch that down and make a loop, or make a chain, or use a ribbon, just to use a tie to hang it on the tree. This is the little one I did with the chenille yarn, which is lovely for all those frosty queens. But you can definitely stitch that onto a jumper or onto a tree. And then these little baby ones, well, these ones I did with the chunky weight yarn. These are great made into bunting, and all I've done is to make that chain and then just put a little stitch into the beginning of each of those points. And then the other thing I did, which I was talking about earlier, was that I've made some mittens, or in fact you can just buy some mittens if you haven't got time to make mittens for Christmas presents or festive gifts, and then you can just stitch the snowflake on. And actually, if you're not up to making a whole mitten or crocheting a mitten, you can just crochet a wrist warmer, just crochet a rectangle, put it together, and then just stitch on one of these lovely little snowflakes, and that makes it just a fantastic gift. So, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. I hope you have fun making these gorgeous snowflakes. I hope you love these snowflakes as much as I do. They are so fast, and you can do them in any weight yarn with the corresponding hook. I'd love to know what you're going to make with them. Are you going to make this really cute bunting? Please leave me a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe for lots more crochet, knitting and sewing tutorials with Love Crafts. Happy crochet!